Okay, let's talk about equation practice with congruent angles. There are two different types of problems that you might encounter here, similar to what we talked about in the previous exercise when we were talking about congruent angles. So in this particular problem, we have two parallel lines with a third line intersecting them. That transversal gives rise to some angles that are of equal measure. So in the first type of problem that we deal with, what we notice is we notice that the vertical angle to angle A, of course, is congruent to angle A, which means it has exactly the same measure. Okay. What we then notice is that this opposite interior angle is, of course, the corresponding angle to the vertical angle of interior A, of angle A. So therefore, the angle B must be equal to angle A, and that is something that is very useful for us to see. Okay, because now when we look up at the measurements of angle A and angle B, we note that 8x plus 72 is equal to 2x plus 144. Fantastic. So we actually have two expressions that are equal to one another, and that is going to help us to solve for x. Okay, so let's think about what our goal is, what our end goal is, to have a value of x, an integer like 6 is what we're being asked for, and we want just to solve for x, right? So our goal at the very end is to have x on its own on one side equals to some integer like 6, so a whole number, either positive or negative. Okay, so we know what our answer is going to look like. In order to get there, we've got a little bit of work to do. Thinking about having x on its own on one side is really it should be our starting point. Okay, to do that, we need to get rid of this 2x on the right hand side. Okay, because we want to have x on its own on the left hand side. Okay, to do that, well, how do you get rid of anything? If you have a positive 2x here, just subtract 2x. That's going to get rid of it. Now, be careful. You can't just subtract 2x on one side of the equation and expect it still to be a true equation. For this to still remain true, we have to subtract 2x from the other side also. So whatever you do on one side of the equal sign, make sure you do it on the other side of the equal sign, and your equation will remain true. Okay, that is our goal. Keep the equation true. Okay, so subtracting 2x from 2x, that's just going to cancel that 2x out. We're going to bring this positive 144 down because we did nothing to that. We're going to bring the 72 down because we did nothing to that either. That's a positive 72, of course. And we have 8x minus 2x, so we have to change that. That becomes 6x. So we're left with 6x on the left-hand side, no x's on the right-hand side, and we still have integers on both sides. So we now need to deal with those integers on both sides. So let's do that. What are we trying to get rid of next? What we're trying to get rid of next is we're trying to get rid of this positive 72. Okay, because remember, we're looking for x on its own on one side. We don't want any integers along with it. We don't even want any coefficients along with it. We'll deal with that next, but let's deal with the integers first. To get rid of 72, we need to subtract 72 from both sides. Okay, essential that you do everything on both sides. Okay, that maintains the truth of the equation. So, in doing so, we subtract 72 from 144. That actually gets us 72. That's quite tidy. Just to clarify that, 4 minus 2 is 2, and we'll borrow this 1, make that 14, and 14 minus 7 is 77. So we got 72 total. Very elegant. And what we have left on this side, once we get rid of our integer on this side, we have left this 6x on the left-hand side. Still not quite what we're looking for, okay? But we're closer. We're one step closer. All right, so our final step, okay, is we need to get rid of this coefficient of x, right? The coefficient of x, 6, is in our way of getting x on its own on one side. So we need to get rid of it. Think of what 6x is. Now we're not adding or subtracting anymore, okay? 6x is 6x's, is 6 multiplied by x. So the inverse operation of a multiplication is division, so we need to divide by 6 in order to get rid of 6, okay? And of course, to maintain the truth of the equation, we need to divide by 6 on both sides. If we do that now on the left-hand side, that cancels out our 6's. That's exactly what we're looking for. And 72 divided by 6, of course, is 12. Okay? So we have x equals 12. All right? And that's exactly what we're being asked for in our solution. An integer like 6, in this particular case, our answer is 12. And you'll notice if you were to plug in 12 for either one of these x's, you would end up with the same answer, right? Because we said at the beginning that these are equal to each other. So let's double check that, okay? So 8 times 12 is, of course, 96, all right? So 96 plus 72 is 168, okay? So that's what we got going on that side for the angle A. So this angle A is 168, and we're expecting the angle B to also be 168. Let's check that. So 12 times 2 is 24, plus 144 is, of course, also equal to 168. So that confirms to us that we've actually gotten the right solution for x. Okay, so the second problem we're dealing with here is a problem where the angles are clearly not equal to each other. Okay, so let's just prove that these angles, first of all, are not equal to each other. We notice that the vertical angle to A is, of course, equal to A, and the corresponding angle to that angle is also equal to A. We notice that, therefore, the image of A and B together make up a straight line. They make up A plus B, therefore, is equal to 180. Okay? So knowing that, we can actually set up our equations exactly like that. So we've got 4x plus 99, and we're going to add that to the angle B. All right? So we're going to add 6x plus 221. And in total, those two added together make 180 degrees. So this is the second type of problem we were dealing with. The previous problem is where the two equations were equal to each other. This problem is where the two expressions were equal to each other. In this case, the two expressions added together are equal to 180. Okay, so let's do a few things to this equation so that we can actually solve for x. Remember, from the previous problem, remember, our goal is to have x equal to an integer. Okay? That's what Khan Academy is asking for. X equal to an integer, a positive or a negative whole number. Right? To do that, our first port of call is actually to combine some terms together. We notice that we have a positive 4x and a positive 6x. All right? Together, that makes 10x. Right? They're added together. So let's bring those two together to begin with, because there's no point in keeping them apart. It's going to make it easier for us to solve for x if we just have one value of x to deal with. So combining those terms together is going to help us. The second thing we notice is we have a positive 99 and we have a positive 221, and together that makes 320. Okay, so those two added together is equal to 180. Now you will notice that the like terms here I've actually done in black, and of course x is a different type of term. X is what we're looking to solve for. All right, so let's deal with again combining like terms again, but in this case we have to of course do a little bit of adding and or subtracting from both sides of the equation to maintain the equality of the expression of the equation. Right, so we're looking to get rid of this 320, so we're going to subtract 320 from both sides. The first thing that you're going to notice here is that x is going to end up being a negative value. Right? This cancels out the 320 on this side, on the left side, and on the right hand side we have 180 minus 320. Okay, think of what this actually means in terms of positive and negative numbers. Okay, we're adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers here. It's not easy to look at just like that. The method to adding or subtracting positive and negative numbers, if you remember from 6th grade, is get the difference between the two. Okay? Once you get the difference between the two, then the sign of your answer is going to be the same as the sign of the larger value. So we know, because 320 is the larger value, that our answer is going to be negative. From there, we just find the difference between the two. So it's almost like flipping these over, okay, and saying 0 minus 0 is 0, 2 minus 8. Right? We have to borrow from the 2, we have to borrow from the 3 this time, and that becomes 12. So 12 minus 8, of course, is 4, right? And 2 minus 1 is 1. We're just subtracting from the bottom number instead of the top number. Okay, so we've got negative 140 on the right-hand side. We've got 10x on the left-hand side. Our final step is to divide by the coefficient of x. Right, so divide by 10 on both sides. It's going to cancel out on the right hand side and give us x equals, and 140 divided by 10 is negative 14. Okay, so the two methods there that we were talking about, the two methods there, the first one of course was to set both expressions equal to each other and solve for x. The second one was to add both expressions together and set them as being equal to 180 and solve for x.